The Joker don't dance and the Riddler don't rock and roll. Hello and welcome to Is This Bad? A show where we rewatch movies that we did not like and with some distance test our priors to decide once and for all, is this bad? Or I guess, was this bad? But we're not calling the show Was This Bad, are we?
Well, it's still, if it's bad, it's still bad.
Is this still bad? Maybe.
Right. Okay.
But it doesn't fit with the branding of is this good, is this bad? So It still is this bad. You just heard him there. I'm joined by my bearded Ebert, a man who hopes his death makes more sense than his life, Jason Doyle.
Wow, that's the highest compliment anyone has ever given me. I love Roger Ebert. He's my favorite.
Yeah, it doesn't get better than that.
No.
And producing the show, she's turning the podcast up to cover the sound of an errant gunshot, Rachel Doyle.
It's nothing. It's a whole war movie.
I'm watching an old war movie, Mom!
I didn't do anything.
You see, like other classic movie podcasts I've listened to, you reference the movie obliquely off the top to show that you watched it. It's a cool trick I do. Except Rachel's not really producing the show. She's sitting at the desk.
Yes.
I'll ask you, JD, what happened here?
Well, Rachel asked if she should be at the desk, and I was like, yeah, I guess so.
But then I said, why not both? Why can't we both sit here?
Yeah.
We did it for no dinks.
Right, but we still have to do our split screen, so I can actually reach out and...
Oh, that's nice.
Hold on, I have to go very far to... No, stop leaning this way so I can reach my hand. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
There she is. Okay, well, so no one's behind the wheel. No one's driving this thing.
Oh, we're gonna...
Much like 2019's Joe. No, just kidding. No, it had a directorial imprint on it. We'll get into all that.
Yes.
Today's movie that we're asking, is this bad, is 2019's Joker. So it's fitting that the idea for this podcast came from 2022's Batman. JD, can you briefly explain what happened when you rewatched Batman and how you came up with the idea for this show?
Right. So I recently rewatched The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, the latest in the Batman and the DC.
Oh, so it is The Batman.
It's
because
the
you see,
Batman.
I've been saying The Joker this whole time.
But that's
and
not.
I didn't,
it's just Joker.
It had been Timberlaked, you know?
Absolutely. Yes, The Batman, I watched originally when it first came out on digital. I didn't go to the theater. But I watched it on digital, and I really despised it. I thought it was just a goddamn mess. Maybe I was in a bad mood. Maybe it is a bad movie. I don't know. But then I watched it for a second time because I live with a couple of Batman fiends. And the fiends being my children. And they just had it on again. And I sort of walked in and watched it again. And I thought, okay, this isn't as bad as I thought it was. There's some redeeming qualities. And then in preparation for the Penguin coming out, I rewatched it for a third time with my youngest son, and I actually quite enjoyed it. A lot more than I thought I did. So I thought, wow, I really wrote off this movie, The Batman. But it turned out I kind of liked it in the end, and I'm actually looking forward to the sequel, and I'm into watching The Penguin. So
Now, are you sure, because you said you watched it 3 times, that this wasn't a bit of a dad catches you smoking cigarettes and you smoke the whole pack and he's screaming at you, do you like it now?
I mean, honestly, it could be that. Nicotine is now coursing through my cis, and I just enjoyed the way it made me feel, Dad. So yeah, it could be that. But yeah, I thought it was. Listen, I'm not gonna say I loved it, but I am gonna say that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So I'm gonna say it's not bad. Right.
And kind of that's what I like about this is, like, people can change, right?
Yes, exactly right.
And normally we go the other way. Like, there's certain movies that I've re-seen, you know, I'm not even going to say recently, but like American Beauty, you know, which was a film when I was in high school, Garden State, after high school for me. But, you know, at the time, like, whether it's because it's a novel idea that seems less novel 20 years later, or it's kind of characters that you identified with at that age and now are kind of cringy to you.
Yeah.
You know, the more often way to go is you like a movie, then you rewatch it and you're like, ooh, this isn't how I remember it. But we're trying to go the other way here. We're trying to be positive. We're trying to say, didn't like it, now I'm going to try to love it.
Second chance. Let's get some redemption up in here.
Nice.
Okay, perfect. So, as I said, it is the Joker that we're talking about today. It is directed by Todd Phillips of normally comedies, and we'll get into that. Road Trip, Old School, Hangover, probably Hangover 2 and 3. Didn't look that up, but I'm guessing.
I think he did. I think he did the full
too.
trilogy.
The full trilogy. And it stars Joaquin Phoenix, Zazie Beetz, Robert De Niro, the mom from 6 Feet Under, and podcasting's own Mark Maron. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it a 68, which I was a little surprised. From what I've seen, like, I did a bit of research. It seemed like it was higher, closer to when it came out, and it's at 68 now. Okay. But the audience loves it, 89%, which is not surprising because at heart, you know, it is a comic book movie or based on comic book IP, so it's not surprising that you would find people to love it. And at $1.1 billion grossing, Joker was the highest grossing R-rated movie until, JD, do you know?
Yeah, I do, actually. Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, okay, then you don't have to tell us.
Oh,
sorry. I just wanted to know if you knew. Okay, no, I interrupted you. It's Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
What did I say? Wolverine and Deadpool?
No, because you only said Deadpool before I jumped down your fucking throat. But only because you said, I do know, and then paused. And I was like, okay, is that as far as you're going to take that sentence? Do you have the nominees and what it was awarded?
Well, I'll tell you, it won. There was 11 nominees. Joaquin Phoenix won for Best Actor, and I believe it won for Best Score. And the score is legit good, I think. But let me.
Was it nominated for cinematography?
Oh, probably.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of my points. So why don't you tell us, Rachel, maybe while JD's looking that up, when and where did you first watch Joker? Because obviously we're starting from a place if we've already seen it. We did not like it. But before you tell me what you thought on the second watch, where and when did you first watch it?
I watched it last night for the first time.
Well, that's fucking the whole concept.
No. And this morning I watched it again.
So off the top, what I said, with some distance, that distance for you was 9.5 hours.
Yeah. Not even, really.
I was marinating all night. The thoughts were... you know what? I went in with all of the vitriol you guys have had for it. I was expecting to feel the same because, you know, I like to jump on a train.
Sure, yeah.
Ride that train. But I didn't feel it today at all. Well, you know, maybe a little. But anyway.
Okay, and JD, when and where did you first watch it?
I did not see this in the theater as well. But I guess this came up like peak pandemic, right? Like
like at home.
Yeah.
It came out in 2019, but yeah, I think it came out at home. I watched it during the pandemic.
Hold on. Did I see that it came out like October 3rd, 2019? On digital?
Possible.
Yeah, well, that was pre-pandemic though.
No, it was, but I didn't watch it till the pandemic.
Yeah, okay. I didn't watch it till the pandemic either. And I just despised it. I thought I've seen this movie before.
Right. And when you say that, what do you mean?
I'm
Which
talking
films
about.
Did it remind you?
Well, definitely Taxi Driver for sure. And of course, the King of Comedy. I mean,
yes.
It's 4 years since or 5 years since it came out, so nothing here is going to be new. I don't think that any of my points are going to be new.
Yeah, but luckily you didn't record a podcast 5 years ago.
You're right.
So it is all new for the listener.
You're right.
But I watched it during the pandemic at home. But I like the concept of the show because I was in my sad, depressed pandemic thing. I was alone. I was watching it on my smaller than average television. And I didn't love it either. I don't think I hated it.
Right.
But I just was like, oh, this is like very nihilistic and probably not what I want to watch right now. And honestly, and I felt this way the second time, spoiler alert, is I think maybe the biggest sin of this movie is that it's boring.
Yeah.
It's very one note, and it plays that note the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's plotting, kind of. So, didn't love it, but I'll tell you what I thought of it this time. But first, let's just say where it takes place. It takes place 1981 in Gotham City, but spoiler alert, Gotham City is, and JD, you can fact check me on this, never looked more exactly like late 70s, early 80s New York.
You are 100% correct. It's
they're not trying to say it's a different city.
No. In fact, I kept forgetting that it was supposed to be Gotham City.
Did they have that
Right.
much garbage around that time?
Well, there were
Piling
two
up?
garbage
Well, they
strikes
did, Rachel. Do you
during-
want to tell us about it?
No, please hit me. I'm going by the movie, not by reality.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
There were definitely garbage strikes happening. I think in the early '70s and then maybe in the '80s. There was definitely a couple of strikes that happened.
Yeah, there was one in the late 60s and one in 1975. And that's where we find, we start the story. The city is crumbling. I mean, fuck, I keep wanting to say New York, but you're right. Gotham City is crumbling.
Yeah.
It's dirty, it's seedy, crime-ridden. There's a garbage strike. Garbage is piling up. There's super rats. And I kept thinking, whenever you watch a documentary about this time in New York, there's that New York Daily News headline that says, Ford to city, drop dead.
Right.
Because I think New York asked for some kind of federal bailout, and Gerald Ford said, "Nuh-uh, drop dead." I don't think he actually said drop dead, but that was
the sentiment
apocryphally
for
now.
sure.
The
Yeah.
sentiment, yeah. So not good times in New York / Gotham City at this point. And before we get into like the plot and what we think of the movie, another thing I like about this podcast is, and I hope you like this podcast, but if you don't, I'm going to tell you why I like it.
Okay.
There was such a heavy discourse about this movie when it
Yes.
came out.
Yeah.
In 2019, right? Do you remember any of this, the hoopla, the controversy?
Oh, of course. There was actual legit worry that there would be incel copycat style shootings. Dylan Roof was not fresh, but I believe he was about to be sentenced, or he was in recent years had been sentenced, or he was still fresh on the brain. Based on the trailers alone, they were worried that it was going to give mental health a bad name. People would be
As opposed to the
inspired.
good name it had
Well,
before.
I mean, the stigma, it was going to stigmatize mental health, and that's a legit concern, I think. But yeah, I mean, people were concerned about glorifying violence by lonely white men specifically.
Right. And you mentioned Dylan Roof, but obviously this is in the wake of, in 2012, the Aurora theater shooting. That was during The Dark Knight, and obviously, Joker, Batman. So I think that played into it. But just like as an example, I just found like one headline. And this is how the headline reads. U.S. military warns troops about possible Joker incel violence. No credible threats reported. And the CEO of Landmark Theaters, which has like 50 movie theaters across the U.S., they banned moviegoers from donning costumes, face painting, or masks when they came to watch the film. So there was hiding. And then, I mean, this is not directly related to that, but there was also the controversy of Todd Phillips said that he left comedy to make the Joker because woke culture had ruined comedy.
Right.
So there was a lot, and it was hard to separate the movie from that. On a rewatch, did the controversy make sense to you? Did you find it exaggerated?
Not really, to be honest. I felt like I was watching Taxi Driver again, and yeah, not really. No.
But I mean, did you think that once seeing it that you were like, oh, is this what people are worried about, or did you feel like there was legitimate cause for concern?
Yeah, I don't think there was cause for concern.
Okay.
Why do you?
No, and I think it's insane.
Yeah.
It wasn't a trick question. I'm just saying that,
you're like sounded like you were surprised to hear me say that.
Like that was going to give the psychopaths who are just waiting for affirmation from
Yeah.
the media and society. Okay, I can do this. Let's do this because I'm going to be a goddamn hero for all of society.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, exactly. But it's like we always get after like Columbine or whatever, every shooting. It's like the shooter, he played these, and I'm saying he for a reason.
Right.
He played these video games.
Yeah.
He watched these movies. You know,
Right.
and it's like they're all violent. But
Yeah.
I mean, Joaquin Phoenix. I wrote down this quote. He said, "I don't think it's the filmmaker's responsibility to teach morality. And if you don't know the difference between right and wrong, then there's all sorts of things that you are going to interpret in the way you want," which
correct.
is fucking bang on. You can make a movie about a crazy person or a psychopath or a movie where bad things happen.
Yeah.
You're not saying that's good. Now, I will say, okay, this is Warner Brothers' statement. Make no mistake, neither the fictional character Joker nor the film is an endorsement of real-world violence of any kind. It is not the intention of the film, the filmmakers, or the studio to hold this character up as a hero. That, I'm not so sure is 1,000% true.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, does the movie hold him up as a hero?
Yeah, it does.
Right. Yeah.
100%.
I kind of think there's an argument.
He looks like
To be made.
a cult leader in the end and a god standing on hood of that car. And
Right.
everybody's
That's right,
worshiping
yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
you know, I mean, he says at some point, like, people are finally starting to pay attention to me now.
Yeah.
And in that way that a lot of mass shooters, you know, want the attention. That's why sometimes they don't print the names, because they don't want to give them the very thing they wanted. Well, after saying that, support the show. Patreon.com/isthisgood.
Yeah, because
and
this
send
is
topics.
definitely getting demonetized now.
Yeah. Could you say nicer things about mass shooters, please, for the algorithm? You could send topics to isthisgoodpod@gmail.com. You could tell us what you thought of Joker and if you've seen it since and if your opinions changed at all.
Absolutely.
And subscribe to Is This Good on YouTube. Oh, I forgot to say, this is not a friendly movie, but it is Ostentatious October. And what are we showing off? We're showing off your love for this podcast.
That's right.
Tell one other human person that you listen to this show.
Yeah.
Your dogs don't care.
Tell-
Humans.
Your dogs don't care.
Humans.
Yeah. Tell one a day during October.
one
That's
person-
31 people.
Join the
Why
cult.
30?
31
this month.
days.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Well, it's coming out a little later.
You're right,
It's
you're
probably
right.
going to be 20-something.
Yeah.
All right, so Joker, here we go. We first meet Arthur Fleck. He's in a makeup chair. He's painting his face for one of his clown gigs. Now, JD, you can confirm this. People need to know that in 1980s New York, clowns were insanely popular.
Oh, yes. So
to the point where a
popular.
business could survive exclusively renting out clowns to places such as hospitals and businesses for sign-swinging duties.
Yeah.
You know this because you were 11 at the time.
I was 11. Well, I was 10, I guess, at the time of this movie. Yeah, and there was a clown union just up the street from us.
And people were
clowns
calling
everywhere.
saying, wait, you got Charlie Brown over there? Can someone dress up as Charlie Brown? And they're like, no, we only do clowns.
Yeah. If your business is going out of business, what you want to do is hire a clown to stand in front of your business to let people know it's going out of business and that everything must go, because you got to leave that job to the professionals. You know what I'm saying?
The entertainers.
He's not even very good. He's good at being a clown. He's not very good at swinging a sign also.
You're exactly right about that.
And the skills it takes to swing a sign, I would say, are drastically different than the skills it takes to cheer up terminally ill children at a hospital.
Well, they did look entertained when the gun went flying.
Right. Isn't that true? They did look happy about it. I was like,
One of the most-
no way he's getting fired for this. But,
Well,
so
that'll
speaking
work.
about his sign swinging duties. So in the opening, he's in front of the store, he's swinging a sign. His sign gets stolen. I particularly enjoyed the one kid running away that goes, "We have the sign!" And then he chases them and he gets beat up in an alley. At first, I was like, wow, that's a nice detail, because as the camera pushes in on him, he's lying on his back in the alley. You could see water pouring out of the flower
I
that's
didn't
on his
see
chest.
that.
Oh, I missed that.
That was
Yeah.
a beautiful shot, though, the way they were zooming in. I was like, God, this is so... Wait, this guy's got the shit beat out of him. Why am I enjoying the beautiful picture
Well, it
so
was a
much?
nice shot, for sure.
Because you're sick like the Joker, Rachel. You've seen it
Right.
twice in 24 hours. The Surgeon General does not recommend it.
Yeah, don't. Do not do that.
But anyways, why did he need to fill up the thing with water to swing the sign? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
if
it's-
someone's like, wow, you've entreated me into going to the store, he was going to like squirt water in their eye.
There were some very specific details just
Yeah.
put throughout the entire movie that... Like, who is in charge of those kind of details? The director? Please, I want water dribbling out. Like, that's
Yeah.
kind of amazing.
I think it's the director.
No, it was a good little detail. I
Yeah,
thought.
listen, this movie is a very well-made movie, I will say. Like, it looks great. It
beautiful.
sounds great.
Yes.
I mean, and it tricks you into thinking it's a good movie. It tricked $1 billion worth of people into thinking it was a good movie.
Did you confirm that it was nominated for cinematography?
I'm still looking.
We'll get to that. I totally agree. Like, okay, well, let me just finish the opening, basically. So we also find out that he is a social services caseworker. He suffers from a disorder that causes him to have random, uncontrollable laughing fits. We find out he lives with his mom in a squalid New York apartment, which doesn't look very bad to me.
It looks great, actually.
Rent control on that thing? It's a good apartment. You got many rooms.
Matt,
Manhattan.
It's squalid for Gotham City.
Yeah.
Oh, right. What do you think? You think Gotham City has 5 boroughs?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Like they have their own Coney Island. They have their own hot dog eating competition.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the people in Gotham City are like, you live in, I don't Beans? That's Queens.
Yeah, Beans, Boney Island.
La-ti-da.
And you got to move into the city, man. You got to move into Gotham. And they're like, no, man. Beans is really up and coming. A lot of indie rock coming out of there. Some alt comedy. Oh, we'll get to the comedy.
In all seriousness, though, as a kid, when I would read DC comics, which was actually quite rare, because I was definitely a Marvel guy, but I would always consider Gotham Chicago. Like, it was supposed to represent Chicago for some reason in my mind, and Metropolis was supposed to represent New York. So this being said in New York was actually, or feeling like New York is actually extra confusing for me for some reason.
But even in the Nolan Batmans, isn't Gotham still New York?
No, it's Gotham City, but it's actually
a lot. But it's
no. They shoot a lot of it in Chicago, actually.
Oh, they did shoot a lot.
Yeah, because there's like a river scene. There's a lot, but it felt more like Chicago to me, which is, like I said, what I sort of imagined as a kid.
Right. Okay. Well, we find out that Arthur has the hots for Sophie, who's a single mother neighbor played by Zazie Beetz, and we also find out, very importantly, that he wants to be a stand-up comedian. Opening minutes of the Joker. Joker.
Just Joker. Yeah.
How were you left feeling?
Okay, well, I mean, like, honestly, taken out of it right from the very beginning, like, the sign stealing scene was just like, maybe I'm the dick, but I'm constantly saying, would he actually chase kids for blocks, like literally 3 blocks? For a sign, you know what I mean? Like, would kids? I mean, okay, sure, kids.
They wanted the sign, JD.
Well, I guess
they had the sign.
I think that a note came down from the studio that said, "Hey, kids are dicks, but they wouldn't do this over a sign, like beat the shit out of them." I think there's ADR in there was like, "Let's get his stuff, get all his stuff," where you never see them take his stuff. Not that he would have any stuff, but to make it look like he was robbed. Because it's just fucking implausible. And a lot of the inciting incidents throughout this movie are so goddamn implausible. Like, everybody is an over-the-top asshole. Like, you mentioned on the bus when we find out he's got this condition where he has to laugh.
That mom.
It's like the mom is like, take it easy, man. Like, leave my kid alone. It's like, hello, your kid is bothering him. Just fucking staring at him.
They're really trying to punch you in the face with the bullying thing. Like, this is the main part of this, like, what instigates him to be a psychopath.
Totally.
Do you get it yet? Do you get it?
But, okay, I'm going to defend the movie here and say society is crumbling. And when society crumbles, people don't have respect for their fellow man, and community crumbles. So, I mean...
You didn't think the mother's reaction to him, like, playfully...
No, that was fucking insane. I got angry I was like, I don't remember that. There were things I didn't... That's what's fun about rewatching a movie is things you don't remember, and you're like, what? Though, on the other hand, there's good things, like when you think that Arthur and Sophie are having a relationship. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time I watched the movie, I was like, almost turned it off. I was like... I am sorry. There is 0% chance that this woman would ever go on and then at least this time I was like, oh yeah, that's in his head.
Yeah. But you didn't think at the time it was like in his head? You weren't that suspicious?
I was maybe suspicious, but I was like, if you don't tell me real soon, I'm going to get upset.
Right.
I can't go through the whole movie thing,
Yeah.
But you get the tip when he's dreaming that he's in the studio audience.
You want to stand up, please? Stand up, please.
Like, that happens before. What's her name? Sophie?
Sophie is the name of the character.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, I immediately assumed he was dreaming it because
because it would never occur to you.
Well, and exactly, but he also dreamt himself in the studio audience, and it seemed very real as he's watching it with his mother in bed. The show.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. What's it? Oh yeah, the about everyone being a dick.
It is implausible. Even when society crumbles, a lot of people come together and help each other. Not everybody.
Of course, that's true. True. We're seeing that in a hurricane. But you just reminded me, JD, there was a book I read when I was a kid called Sleepers that was purported to be a true story. And it was later like debunked. Yeah. And it got very popular because people said it was a true story. But the inciting incident is basically it's in New York, in Hell's Kitchen, and this group of young kids, friends, steal a hot dog cart vendor's hot dog. And then they eventually push it down the stairs of a subway, and then it goes and crashes into someone, and that person dies, and then they get sent into juvie, and then the movie starts. All I'm saying is, even though that book turned out to be fiction, kids were being dicks in the 70s in New York.
Okay, fair enough.
And since then, never again.
Fair enough. But I would even go so far as to say, the guy that, he gets mugged, the sign gets shattered. Why not take the sign back to the owner and say, "Hey, I got mugged."
Right, he just
and
left
here's your sign. And so the guy off screen, we never meet him, is like demands his going out of business sign.
Yeah, that was
like
funny.
what for? Like, sorry,
why do you want that back?
Yeah,
if in a best case scenario the sale worked so well you're back in business, you don't need the going out of business sign anymore.
Exactly. Anyways,
unless it said back in business on the other side, and it's a twofer situation.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, it just everybody seemed over the top mean to him, and I get it. So society is crumbling, sure, but I think that there is a more elegant way to do all this. Like, I feel like Todd doesn't really trust the audience. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you, but I do want to compliment Todd as you did. This movie looks fucking great.
Yeah.
And it looks grimy, it looks gritty, it looks grainy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest notes I have when I've been watching movies, over the last, 5 years, 10 years or so is just make them look a bit shittier.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
Because sometimes you watch a movie about like the underworld or a crime story or something that, like even in a post-apocalyptic future or sci-fi, and it just looks so sheeny, so flat, so perfectly lit. And this is like, you could tell they shot on location. Whether it's a film or digital, that's not my business.
Yeah,
I don't give a
care
shit
anymore.
It's overdone. A Jack White album is not good exclusively because he yelled it into a fucking phonograph or something. It might also be good, but you can make a good album on Pro Tools, you can make a good album on tape, but this just looks fucking good. It's supposed to take place in a downtrodden, shitty city, and it looks that way, and I really do commend Todd for that.
Feels so artsy almost. Like some of the shots are just breathtaking, even though they're disgusting what's happening. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I'll take that compliment and I'll flip it on its head and say that I think that Todd Phillips was cosplaying as Marty Scorsese, and like it basically showed everybody that Taxi Driver, this is what I want this movie to look like.
Oh.
1,000%. Yeah. But I think that's the whole point, and I think he was somewhat transparent about this as to why he wanted to make this movie. Because he grew up in New York. Mm-hmm. He grew up on all those 70s, the Paul Schrader, the Scorsese stuff. And he was like, they're not going to let me make that now. Mm-hmm. And this not because of the woke. That's just because of the capitalism.
Right.
And he was like, what if we backdoored a Joker origin story into a gritty 70s, 80s, crime drama?
Yeah. And I think I respect the
why?
move.
But then why? And I want to ask you, because you're more of a comic book guy.
Yeah.
Does this need to be a comic book movie?
The short answer is absolutely not. It does not. Specifically, the Joker. We'll get into why I think it shouldn't be. Like, this movie should never have been made. Okay, well, I'll say it right now.
It's not that I didn't like it. It's just that I think it should never have been made.
But don't you respect he's not just like redoing a movie with new actors and doing it again? No, but he is also adding a new twist. He's doing more than just...
No, he's not.
It is a little...
Go watch Taxi Driver. It's exactly note for note Taxi Driver. And with a bit of King of Comedy in there as well. That character he's basically making Travis Bickle and Rupert Pupkin into the love child is Arthur Fleck.
There is a little originality in there rather than just redoing and calling it Taxi Driver and getting a new younger Robert De Niro.
There isn't. It's literally...
Why couldn't they update it and call it Uber Driver?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, he did not drive a taxi. I'll give you that. I mean, okay.
You think that was the first draft?
Yeah. It's like,
Because
you know
a
what?
lot of people can be mean to you if you're a taxi
You're right.
driver.
You're
Yes,
exactly right.
That's true.
Yeah, it's I just don't think that it's a very good movie. And ultimately, you know, what annoys me the most about this is that it's one of those, he's like, I'm not making a comic book movie. I'm making a movie, it's set in reality. But if you set any criticism towards it at all, say like, hey, the kids' reaction are a little over the top. It's like, well, it's a comic book movie. And then further to that, well, he's an unreliable narrator, so he's a crazy person. So maybe this didn't happen. Todd Phillips has come out and said, you know what? Maybe it's not even the Joker. Maybe it's just somebody else. It's like, okay,
I need to ask you a question now.
Okay, go ahead.
At the end of the show, at the very end of the show, I emphasize the very end of the show.
Yeah.
Do you want me to give you a Joker 2 spoiler?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to see it, so I looked up
either.
what happens at the end. I saw people online being like, "Oh, the end of Joker 2, folie à deux," and I was like, "All right, let me just see what the hell's going on."
But you
here.
need to see
I do think
it.
it's actually an important point, but if you consent to it, I will only do it at the very end, so people that
Okay, hold
want
on.
to see that
I don't
movie
know if Rachel consents.
I do not consent, because if you're doing a Is This Bad for Joker, why the fuck wouldn't you do an Is This Bad Joker 2?
Well, I already know.
I don't want to see it.
Yeah, I don't want to see it either.
I don't want to
You're
see it
just
once.
And you don't want
Yeah.
to play shuffleboard either. But you know what?
Okay.
I bet people might want to hear your opinion on Joker 2 if they enjoyed your
Okay,
first.
yell into the mic, not into.
I'm yelling at Matt.
Okay, I'm on a TV. I'm not there with you.
Shut up.
So I'll actually hear you better yelling at
Stop.
me if you yell into the microphone. All right. We can get back to this at the end, but I would really love to give you a Joker 2 spoiler at the very end of this podcast.
You know what? Let me guess it at the end.
No, but that's just, okay. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going with the plot because the movie hasn't even really started yet.
Okay, all right.
If you
Getting
loved
bogged
the
down here.
scenes at Clown Incorporated, bad news, Arthur gets fired for the small crime of bringing a loaded gun to a hospital full of... I don't want to be a downer, but those kids were going to die anyway. So, is there really a danger?
You're right.
Yeah? Okay.
Right. And by the way, you also made the point that society is crumbling. So, isn't it reasonable for him to be carrying a weapon to protect himself?
He did just get attacked by children,
That's
so
right.
he's surrounded by more.
It's very reasonable because this is where it really picks up. He's riding home in the subway, still in his clown makeup. He just got fired. And he gets mocked and assaulted by 3 drunk businessmen who just happen to work for Wayne Investments. Yes, that Wayne, Bruce Wayne, who's a young boy, but his dad is Thomas Wayne.
Yes.
And Arthur defends himself, and he fatally shoots 2 of them, and then he murders a third, somewhat in cold blood, I would say.
The third
And then,
one for sure.
Yeah, Thomas Wayne, billionaire. They always say it's like the Wayne family, the billionaire, Gotham, you know what? I'm like, they got to be above billionaire, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because, like, a guy with $1 billion is not having a giant cave in his basement with all this, like, cool gadgetry.
Yeah.
So I think they're trillionaires, really. I'm going to say it.
Close to it, yeah.
Yeah.
In the 80s, though?
With inflation, if you're willing to say with inflation, yes.
Yeah.
So he condemns the killings, and people begin putting on clown masks in Arthur's image to support him. Well, not specifically him, but he becomes a symbol, I suppose.
Right.
And then budget cuts shut down the social services program that he was using, and Arthur is left without his medication. So I'll pay it another compliment and just say that I kind of like the social services, like the city infrastructure and welfare programs breaking down, because this is a real thing that we have people that are mentally ill in society, and if we certainly do have the money to take and the resources to take care of them, but we choose not to. We choose to divert those resources into other places, and people slip through the cracks.
Yep.
So I kind of did enjoy seeing that, and I liked that he was like, he goes kind of ham in that scene. And he's like yelling at the social service worker, like, "You don't listen to me. I'm trying to talk here. You're just sort of cashing a check, prescribe the drugs, and then you send me on my merry way." And she kind of says, they don't care about me either. So it's not just Arthur here. It's the city employees who are probably very overworked, very underpaid, And it is setting up somewhat nicely to me this a class divide, a wealth inequality, which resonates obviously today. So I'm giving it that. I kind of did like that. Like Arthur, at least at the start, is a victim, and we're going to get to exactly the ways in which he was victimized. That doesn't mean he himself cannot be a victimizer.
Yeah.
But I do think he's a victim, and I do think on some level he is failed by society.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
100%. And I agree that I, too, enjoyed the theme that they were trying to present. I didn't enjoy being knocked over the head with, they don't give a shit about you. Or me, for that matter. I mean, okay, we got that. We got that when you said they were shutting down the department, right?
Right.
You don't need that. Also, the inciting, this is another inciting incident that really bothered me. The one sole witness to this incident on the subway, who then leaves the subway car, did not see the actual crime happen. She was a victim of harassment, yes. And then she saw, Arthur getting bullied by these guys, but then she left. And she did not see them kicking the shit out of Arthur, and they did not see the two guys get murdered, and I don't even know if she saw the third guy get murdered off the train, right? How did this inspire all of Gotham City to be, all of a sudden it's the rich versus the poor, like this is a statement against rich dudes because
he calls them clowns. Thomas Wayne calls them clowns.
What?
He's like,
okay,
people that support this kind of thing are clowns or something like that.
well, he called it, yeah.
The
Yes.
citizens clowns?
Yeah,
Okay.
which also over the top.
Yeah.
But
he calls the citizens clowns and they all dress up as clowns.
Yeah,
This guy who's
Robert De
running
Niro
for mayor.
calls-
This guy running for mayor. He's calling the citizens of Gotham clowns.
And I want your vote.
It doesn't make sense.
Hey, it's
stupid.
a real Hillary Clinton deplorable.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think the musical, well, since the next one is a musical, was inspired by date rapey dude number 3 slipping into song to go beat the shit out of?
Yeah, I mean, I think on a rewatch, that's one thing that jumped out at me is like, oh, I could totally see why they did the second one as a musical. Because there's a lot of music in this and a lot of swaying and dance and artistic dancing.
Yes.
So would 20-something-year-olds be singing Barbra Streisand, Send in the Clowns?
Maybe in 1981.
It was a hit. Is it Neil Diamond too?
Yeah, I think.
Oh no, that's You Don't Bring Me Flowers.
That's right.
It's their duet. Do you want to talk about the music?
Sure.
Okay. A little on the nose. You've been given some on the nose comments. I'll give it. So here's some songs that are played in the movie: "Send in the Clowns."
Yeah.
"Everybody Plays the Fool."
Yeah.
"If You're Happy and You Know It." "Smile."
Yeah.
And da 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 da. Hey, Rock and Roll Part 2.
Yeah.
A little thrown in there, but very heavy on the clown, fool, smile
Yeah.
theme here.
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
You didn't mind it?
No.
I found it a little much. And I did not remember that in the famous scene when he dances down the steps, that it's to Gary Glitter's Known Pedophiles,
Yeah.
Rock and Roll Part 2.
What? Honestly, please explain that to me. Why? Why that song in particular?
I know, it's so weird.
It's so fucking weird. It's like, okay, this is my art. I'm going to line the pockets in real life of a convicted pedophile. That's what I'm doing.
I know, and it's like, it almost feels like, because it's such a jock jammy kind of song, and in that moment, I suppose, Joaquin Phoenix is triumphantly walking down the stairs. But I didn't even feel like it matched with that song, but let's just say it did. An editor's going to have that on file and toss it in and be like, a guy's dancing down the stairs, here's an option.
Right, sure.
And then it kind of feels like, oh, that's amazing. I can't see that scene except with that song now.
It slips into another tune before he's done dancing, though. What's the next song?
It does?
I thought it did.
I don't remember.
Is it White Room? Cream? I know that's it.
Oh, yeah, that
some point.
happens too.
For some reason, I loved it, though. I loved him coming down the stairs like that. And the beautiful, like, you can see the cops approach behind him. I don't know. It was just,
Visually, it was great. There's no doubt.
It was visually
about that.
great, but Rachel, another thing I did not remember is that it hard cuts from that song to the cops being like, hey! I did not remember. So ostensibly they're watching him like, they're not hearing the music.
Yeah.
They're watching him like tramp down the stairs, and then at the end, like waiting for him, and then they're like,
my.
hey, you're the guy we're chasing.
Another.
I thought that was a little unintentionally funny.
Yeah.
But anyways, just to sort of back up the sort of Taxi Driver, this actually is New York vibes. A real shooting did happen on a subway in New York in 1984. Bernie Getz, he claims that he's, being robbed by four black youths. I mean, obviously, I don't want to say that, but I need to say that because it's important, because then there's a lot of, in the trial, racism running through it and calling them like, savages and thugs and things like that. Yep. And we're not, which isn't, it's just making me think now, we're not really getting any race in this movie. It's all class.
Right.
Like it's all poor, rich, poor.
Yep.
Which is interesting, but whatever, makes sense. I don't expect the movie to do everything. But anyways, Bernie Getz kind of becomes like he's called like the subway vigilante, and he kind of becomes a hero. So obvious reference point here.
Right. Also, Travis Bickle is a hero at the end of Taxi Driver.
Right. And in King of Comedy too, right? Like,
he actually
like a book deal. Is it a
wins
dream? Is it real? Who knows? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, just let me quickly say, the person that's playing Thomas Wayne is a very bad actor, and I did not enjoy a single scene that he was in.
I didn't know Bruce Wayne's dad was such a dick.
Well, he's not.
Well, Bruce is much nicer.
You think this is funny?
Dad, it's me.
Thomas Wayne is, I believe it was like a pillar of the community, right? And all the other movies anyways. I'm not sure about the comics, but, he was beloved member of Gotham City's elite.
Okay, well, maybe he had a darkness behind him that he didn't show to the people.
Also, can I ask is Bruce Wayne adopted? Because they look like grandparents. And I know Daddy can shoot non-blanks for a while, but Mommy can't have a baby at 55.
Biologically.
Oh, so you're saying that Arthur Fleck's mother did carry the baby?
Well, it could.
Anything's
it's
possible.
It could be. Yeah.
Go on Reddit with that, Rachel. I want to see how people greet you with that.
I didn't. His acting didn't really bother me that much. And speaking of casting, I think that, with the exception of De Niro, I think it's a very well cast movie.
Okay, can we get to the De Niro piece of it?
Let's do it.
Okay, so Arthur, he fails at a stand-up gig with Sophie there, but they seem to have some sort of romance. Don't worry, it's not happening if you're don't freak out. And then he finds out that allegedly Thomas Wayne had an affair with his mom, and that he is his father.
Yes.
But don't worry, we're also going to learn that's probably not true, though I guess you could equally say that a man of such power and influence could have, planted this information and gotten her committed to the asylum and blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
But Arthur's mom has a stroke. She's hospitalized. But it's not all bad news, because late night host Murray Franklin, Murray's favorite, Arthur's favorite TV show, he shows clips of Arthur's failed stand-up performance on the show and calls him a joker. And it's nice to know that even in 1981, comedians had to worry about their sets being filmed before they were ready. So my question to you is, Robert De Niro poorly cast? Because my answer is a definitive yes.
Yeah. I think that he was cast, and I don't think I'm the first person to say this, but just to cover up the fact that it's a complete ripoff of King of Comedy and
But why does that cover it up? Doesn't that?
Well, it's just like
shine more light on it.
See, it's an homage. It's not. I'm not ripping it off. It's an homage. I even cast Travis Bickle and Pupkin himself. But like just a ridiculous decision to cast him in that role. You know what I mean?
Because he's supposed to be a late night talk show host, aka a comedian, and De Niro cannot sell like. He's been funny. Greg, I have nipples. Can you milk me? Meet the Parents and analyze this and that. But like telling actual jokes, no good.
Well, the jokes weren't particularly well written, and I think that it could be argued that he's not supposed to be particularly funny. So
then how is he this like such long running beloved? Johnny Carson was good at his job.
Here's the thing about this movie. It is not funny at all. For a movie that's filled with comedians, you got Gary Gulman, you've got Sam Morrill, you've got Mark Maron, Greer Barnes is in it. Like, You have actual working
Not
comedians.
Greer Barnes.
The Greer Barnes.
Is
Yes, he is. He's in one of the clowns.
That's the first I'm hearing of it, and of Greer Barnes.
You never heard of Greer
No offense
Barnes?
to you.
Oh, come on.
No.
Greer Barnes, he's a...
Did we see him in New York?
We saw him at the Comedy Cellar. I've seen him like
Loved him.
3 times at the Comedy Cellar. Anyways, this movie is not funny. That's its main primary number one sin, is that you made a movie about the Joker, and it is not funny at all. In fact, and I will also argue this, Vince Mancini released an article today, or at least it popped up in my feed today. I think the headline is, "Stop calling Joker a failed comedian," because the joke that he actually says that Murray plays on his show, it's actually not a bad joke. It's a very well-constructed joke.
Yeah. Oh, and you're saying you disagree with that? Because I kind of agree with it.
I agree with it. I think that it's funny, and what happens is he steps on his own joke because of his condition. He can't stop laughing, and he steps on his own joke and can't deliver it very well. You know what I'm saying?
Some performance notes for him. We need to send him back.
Well, yeah, but it just...
Well, let me say the joke.
Okay.
Because I do have a section here in my notes titled, "Is Arthur Fleck a good comedian?" So when he comes out on this late night talk show that De Niro's hosting, he says, "It's funny. When I was a little boy and told people I wanted to be a comedian, everyone laughed at me." Silence.
Yeah.
"Well, no one's laughing now."
It's a good
That's
joke.
funny.
It is funny.
I would have laughed if I was in the audience. Probably not, though, because the guy's fucking dressed as a guy that murdered 3 people on the subway and is starting riots, and everyone in the streets is dressed as him, and they also just killed a police officer.
Yeah. But anyways, this is an inciting incident for him to his humiliation from Murray, his hero, his childhood hero. It is so clumsily put together, like, why did they have to do it this way? They shot a scene that was a fantasy that is completely plausible that could have actually happened. It's free to go to a talk show. Mm-hmm. He could have been in the audience. He could have stood up, and he could have been ridiculed and humiliated by Murray in real life. Like, I guess the reason is that they wanted him to meet Murray for the first time the day he kills him, I guess. But it's just such a clumsy, implausible thing that at the end of a late show talk show host's monologue, that he would suddenly just play a random open mic night comedian. Like, it's...
Well, Letterman would do stuff like that.
No, he would. Not that. From an open mic? Like,
I mean, that's
a comedian bombing. He's going to show that and ridicule and up.
Exactly. And who was fucking filming that? Come on.
Well,
I had to have, like, the news there.
I mean, they did have a shot of, like, Arthur waiting in the bowels, and there was a TV with the comic on stage. Sam Morril was on stage, and I guess it's to let the comics know that what was happening on stage in the bowels of the club. I guess, but yeah, it's preposterous. The whole thing is preposterous.
Well, even in that dream sequence, I found it funny where he dreams he's watching Murray's show and he gets plucked out of the crowd. He's like, he says something about, like, "Oh, I live with my mother," and everyone laughs at him. And I was like, damn, even in this guy's fantasy, everyone's laughing at him. Yeah. But that does bring up a good point of that. Something I'm not sure I believe is people that are like this, people that are mentally ill, people that feel unseen, that just so desperately want to be famous or popular. They usually don't care how they become popular or why they become famous. Like, it's a very the only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you look at just all these shameless people on reality TV, or like a Hawk Tua or whatever, like, people don't care if they're being made fun of. All they care about is if they're getting fame and being and being in the public. So, would he really care? Like, this guy's he's done one open mic and now he's on a late night talk show. That's pretty good.
That's pretty awesome.
Like, parlay that, man. Don't murder the guy. That's gonna end your career. But he didn't have an agent to tell him that. Hey, when you go on a show, don't kill the host. All right, let's read some more Arthur Fleck comedy. All right, this is the second joke he tells in real life, if we are to believe this is all happening.
Right.
You can participate in this one, Rachel. Knock, knock.
Thank you. Who's there?
It's the police, ma'am. Your son's been hit by a drunk driver. He's dead. I mean, it's
good.
something.
It's not nothing.
Yeah,
Like Neil Hamburger could pull off that joke.
Yep, I think you're right. I mean, Vince mentions this in his article. It subverts you, right? It's like the worst possible thing you could say after knock knock is, a horrible, horrific tragedy. This is like the Conan O'Brien school of what's the worst possible thing I could say,
Right.
And it I mean, is it funny? I mean,
anti-comedy is a genre of comedy.
Yeah.
But that wasn't in his notes. He was taking notes, and that was not one of the things he wrote down as, oh, I need to know this.
He writes on stage.
Like, you didn't check your notes? You weren't watching the comedian?
Well,
that was not part of it.
Let's talk about his notebook, because conveniently someone did have a freeze frame of it. So here's 4 jokes from his book.
Oh, okay.
What did the crazy man say to his straitjacket?
Don't know.
Loosen up a little.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay, I got a smile.
pretty
Get some
good.
smiles. Why did the old man like having insomnia? Because he didn't have to sleep with his wife.
Oh, my God.
Okay, that's fun. That's legit funny.
That could be a Rodney Dangerfield joke.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Why are poor people always confused? Because they don't make any sense.
Oh, yes, I saw that
And
one.
now that's his second sense pun.
Yeah.
As I said off the top of the show, what was it? I hope my
My life.
death is worth more sense. Makes more sense than my life.
Something
All
like
back to the money, class struggle.
It's all back to the money. Yeah. Maybe get off the sense joke. That's what I'd say to him if I was his agent. Number 1, don't kill the host. Number 2, we're good with the puns, because when you say the pun, we're not reading it, Arthur. Okay,
Yeah.
that's we don't know. It's a homophone situation. And then finally, this one is more a statement than a joke, I think. The worst part about having a mental illness is people expect you to behave as if you don't.
Right.
So he's not that funny.
No.
But much like, it kind of reminds me of like if you ever go to an improv show and they pull someone up from the crowd and there's like really good improvisers and the person that they pull on stage has never done it before and is not funny at all, even in general life. Them being so stiff and bad at it becomes its own humor.
Right.
So
the annoying laugh did not add
that's
to
the
the
problem.
humor.
Laughing. Timing is everything in comedy, and laughing is a thing that you respond to a joke with. So laughing in the wrong place does really hurt your joke.
Okay, but there are 2 laughs that the Joker has, right? Or Arthur has, I should say, right? There is the fake laugh when he thinks that he should be laughing. And that's the laugh you're talking about.
Like he's trying to...
That's when he's just cackling. Like when Gallman is on stage, he's taking notes on what to say and he's laughing in all the wrong spots, which is another major sin of this movie. The Joker is supposed to have a sense of humor. No matter where you are in his origin story, I know that he's been beaten down and he's suffered terrible trauma. Whatever Joker you're talking about, the Joker has a sense of humor. Sometimes he's not making lots of jokes, but he definitely has a sense of humor.
But that is a sign of psychopathic behavior, trying to mimic normal people's behavior. And it's coming out at the wrong time, but it seems like delayed. It seems like he's a child, not a grown man psychopath.
Yeah.
Like still this low IQ or whatever. He has not developed this normal sense after watching human behavior for... How old is he? He looks like 50.
He's definitely not 50.
Oh, come on. He's got to be close to 50. Joaquin?
Is 1981 New York, Gotham, I mean. The healthcare isn't good.
Yeah, life is beating him down.
Okay.
Maybe he's on food stamps.
Yeah.
He's eating government cheese.
Yeah, I mean...
He's in hard shape.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's the brain injury, right? Like that's what we come to find out.
Yeah,
is
you
that
can...
he has an injury and he can't process it the way we can, or a person with a sense of humor can. And that's the thing. Like the annoying laugh I think you're talking about is, the fake laugh that he puts on when he's walking towards the manager's office is like ha 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 ha,
as opposed to,
and then he just suddenly stops.
As opposed to the
tick uncontrollable tick, where
Right.
he gets emotional and can't stop laughing.
Right.
Well, that's another thing that I thought was when he's on the bus and the woman yells at him, even though he's just trying to cheer up your dumb kid, fucking relax. relax. The city is filled with hate. This man's putting a smile on your child's face. And you can see that your child is smiling, okay? He starts laughing, and he's uncomfortable when he hands her the card, and it's like, I laugh, in times when I don't want to be, when I don't think it's funny. Don't think I think this is funny, because I don't, even though I'm laughing. But the Joker, as far as I understand him, laughs when he is causing chaos and when he is causing suffering and pain to others. He's enjoying it, and the laughter is a sign of him enjoying. So I don't know if that is an inconsistency, or what Todd Phillips would say is, well, when Arthur makes full transition into the Joker, maybe that the laugh that comes from uncomfortableness starts to mean that he actually is enjoying these moments.
Well, remember, he says my life was...
JD.
I thought my life was tragedy, but really it's actually comedy. So maybe he's embracing the shit ride that his life has been, and now that he... Yeah, like you said, he's evolved into, I'm embracing this. People love me now.
Before we get to some other notes, in a scene, in one of the most incomprehensible scenes, Arthur goes to Arkham State Hospital and convinces Brian Tyree Henry to just read him the file. And I did not understand this at all.
No.
You can't have this file, but why don't I read it to you?
Yeah.
And that's when he finds out that, and he steals the file. He finds out that, again, if you believe this to be the truth, his mother is completely delusional. She was working for the Waynes, but she invented this imaginary relationship and invented this whole idea that Arthur is their biological son, when in fact she raised Arthur she adopted him and raised him with an abusive boyfriend who hit him and chained him to a radiator, and that's what led to him being what he's like now.
Right.
So then Arthur goes into Sophie's apartment unannounced. She's freaked out, and then it finally becomes clear. Again, don't worry. None of that happened before. She doesn't really like him.
Right.
And she doesn't know this, but a good reason not to like him is then he kills his mother at the hospital, smothers her with a pillow. But again, it's not all bad news. He gets invited to be on Murray's show. And whether you think this is bad news or not, his old colleagues come to visit him, and he stabs the big guy in the neck. Didn't bother to look up what the big guy's name was.
Randall.
But, Randall. I like Randall. I like Randall. No, I don't like him, but I thought he was a good antagonist.
Oh, yeah.
In the movie.
Yeah. He's a piece of shit,
and then
for sure.
that's when we find out, you're painting your face? You must be going to the protest today where everyone else is painting their face. Actually, no. I'm just doing this for fun. I don't know what you're talking about, but thank you for setting up that there's going to be other people dressed like me. And the cops are chasing him. That's when he is dancing down the steps, and the cops abruptly record scratch and go, hey! They chase him, and he goes into the subway, and he basically incites a brawl, and then one of the detectives gets killed. Then he
doesn't get killed.
Oh, doesn't he get shot?
No, the cops survive.
Somebody gets shot.
I don't know about one of the clowns, but yeah.
He fires his gun. It looks like a civilian maybe gets shot.
Accidentally, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're on to the very final act of it where Arthur is in Murray's studio. Mm-hmm. Any notes here? I mean, we've kind of gone over it. I want to say the Joker masks are scarier than the Joker makeup.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And there's a scene at the end when the Jokers are driving the ambulance and they crash into the police car and they free Arthur. Mm-hmm. And the guy with the Joker mask kind of like cocks his head and looks into the car.
Yeah.
Very frightening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very freaky.
Yeah.
So I'm saying do the makeup in a way that's scarier than the masks. That's all I'm saying.
I really hated the dancing in general.
I didn't. I felt like it was his coping mechanism for to bring himself down and calm himself. You could see it every time. I mean, one of the scenes he looks like he's doing Tai Chi, but it morphs into a dance, but it's like a coping mechanism for his stress.
Okay.
And I don't mind it.
Jeez, I love this answer. Okay.
Well, I don't know. Sure. I mean...
No, I mean, it's fine.
I guess. It just... I don't know. Doesn't... Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
He's just a kooky guy. He's a kooky guy.
He's a kooky guy.
And then I would say that the whole going to the studio part is where, to me, it really falls apart. Every decision is very implausible to me. The fact that he shows up dressed and wearing the face paint of the Joker as a fucking riot's going on, as a man has just been murdered, as the police have just been in a fight, as a guy dressed like that has killed 4 people. I guess what would the counterpoint be like? Hey, man, that'll be great for ratings, if we have him on.
I think that's what Murray was thinking. I mean, Gene tried to talk him out of it, right? The producer
Gene
of the
is
show?
Mark Maron?
Yes.
In his best role, I think. I think he's actually really good.
He's great in it. He should have been playing the talk show host, but...
yeah.
He should have. And I read that he said that, he doesn't like superhero movies, but he took this because he knew that his only scenes would be with De Niro, and De Niro was his hero.
Right, yeah, okay.
Not surprisingly, Taxi Driver and King of Comedy and all this shit. And then he says that, like, it really demystified acting for him because De Niro sucked. Like, he just could not say any of his lines. He didn't know any of his lines. But he was like, I don't know if he was just trying to compliment him, but he was like, he's such a pro, and he's been so in front of so many cameras that he knows if he gives them this, and that, it'll cut together. Like, he has the movie in his head kind of thing. But he was basically like, that's my hero? Like, maybe this isn't as hard as I thought it would be.
No, and you're right. He was great. The short amount of time that he was on screen, he was great. And I will say that about almost all of the cast as well. I mean, I already made that point, but yeah. And when you said he had the movie in his head, that's what bothered me about the dancing. When I'm talking about Todd Phillips, because it felt like it wasn't part of it. I think I read that it actually wasn't part of it.
Oh,
you're right. Yeah.
They
Joaquin
would.
did it.
Was it Joaquin improving?
It was. It was like there were time. I guess they had all the time in the world on this fucking movie because they would lock the crew out of the set or whatever and just talk and figure out ideas. And Todd Phillips would have pieces of the music that had already been scored and on his iPhone and be like, hey, what do you think? And then Joaquin starts doing this crazy Tai Chi type thing. It was just like, all right, I like improv, and I think this comes from his comedy background. Like, let them cook, let them do their thing. But it's just like, all right, so now we've got extended scenes of Joaquin doing this weird Zen Tai Chi thing
with the gun too.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, I guess it looks kind of cool. But it's not the Joker, right? I mean, that's what it all comes back to for me. And not that I'm a Joker head or anything, but it just doesn't ring true to the character that we're supposed to be watching an origin story about. So, I mean, that's really what.
Well, maybe it's time to talk about that because I don't understand how this is the Joker.
Right.
Yeah.
What I know of the Joker, and you know more than me, is the Joker is. Is it fair to say the Joker is a criminal mastermind?
Yes.
Capable of operating and helming large conspiracies.
Yep.
Very intricately planned and detailed.
Yes.
Arthur can't tie his own shoes.
Yes.
This dude doesn't have a very high IQ.
He's not smart. No. It's that simple. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, every iteration of the Joker that we've seen so far, and we're talking about a character that was probably, I want to say 40 years. It had already been around for 40 years before Nicholson plays him, right? So we've got Cesar Romero. We've got Nicholson. He is charismatic, like incredibly charismatic, incredibly smart. He has a sense of humor. Arthur Fleck does not have a sense of humor. He does not know what comedy is. The Joker doesn't dance. And the Joker isn't empathetic.
The Joker don't dance and the Riddler don't rock and roll.
The Joker isn't empathetic, and that's one of the things about this character. Is the one redeeming quality about Arthur is that he is empathetic and he feels the pain of the city so much.
And he wants love. He desperately wants it, which makes me go, I don't think Arthur's really a psychopath. He's just really damaged.
Right.
Like, how is he going on this murderous spree? Well, because he's only killing people that have wronged him, which I was so happy that the little person was not murdered after the big asshole was.
Shout out to Lee Gill. Great performance from Lee.
You saw him at the Comedy Store?
I don't know if he's a comedian, actually. I don't think he is. I think he's an actor.
I mean, that is actually a really good moment when he finally lets him leave. Mm-hmm. And he can't reach the bolt, so Joaquin has to come over again, and he's freaked out. That's a good little... Wait, speaking of when I say this, that was a good little scene. People are rewatching this movie. What are they... what moment are they excited for?
I know.
I think they're excited for when he's sponge bathing his mom's back. If I'm ever,
I wish the lid of that bathtub was a little lower.
if I am ever in the bathtub with my titties sagging in the water and my son is sponging my bath,
Wow.
that's time to put me in Arkham.
Wow.
It really is.
All right.
Arkham.
I'm like, oh God, you are damaged. I'm so sorry, Arthur.
Okay. I thought Francis looked pretty good.
I don't mean that. I'm saying.
All right, well, back to our linear story. Robert De Niro doesn't laugh and he gets shot in the head.
Yeah.
Not for that reason, but it's fun.
In
to
the
think that's
face?
why.
Or, like, right about there? What's that?
Yeah, right about there. Arthur gets arrested. Riots erupt across the city. People are spurred on by not just the subway murders, but by this live TV murder. Anarchy ensues. As I said, the Jokers in an ambulance crash into the police car. They free Arthur. Arthur's dancing. Sorry to say it, but he's dancing on the cop car to the cheers of the crowd. And that's all he wanted, JD. All he wanted was to be noticed.
And loved.
And loved. He doesn't care. I mean, one thing that we should talk about is, in terms of the politics, like, going back to the controversy around this movie, Arthur explicitly says, I'm not political. Murray, De Niro's character, is trying to be like, what does this mean? Is it about the rich, the poor, the election, this, that? Like, he's like, I don't care. Like, again, through no fault of his own, this is not a smart man. This is not a man that thinks about the political climate and in ways in which he can influence it. Right. He's just thinking, me want love, me feel chaos inside, me want world to look that way.
Yeah.
And so he does. So he's not even saying it's political. Now, what I would argue is that chaos is a politics, and it's a politics that we're experiencing right now. Sure. I don't really want to get into politics too much, but there is literally a political theory called politics of chaos, and it's this idea that people are so cynical and skeptical that they want to just fucking tear it down. And it's a right-wing phenomenon, but it's also a left-wing phenomenon. Yep. It's like, sure, a guy like Donald Trump comes along and says, there's a deep state. Everyone is lying to you. There is a swamp. These people hate you. These people are all corrupt. And people are like, yeah, fuck. And then there's QAnon conspiracies, but there's also certainly left-wing conspiracies. Yep. And it was reminding me that when I watched this movie, it was sort of probably around the time of George Floyd, when there was like 99% peaceful protest. There were some riots. If you're on the left, you might believe those riots were justified. And we were not that far behind the January 6th riots, which maybe if you're on the right, you think those were justified because they were trying to take their country back. But the idea of rioting and public dissatisfaction, the movie is trenchant, I suppose, in that sense, though I would say somewhat sadly, though I don't want to see riots, but really politics of class are really what we're missing in this country, I think. Battles over wealth inequality and healthcare and social safety nets and taxation of the rich. Ultimately, I think that's the biggest problem. Obviously, there's intersectionality. Sorry to use another buzzword, but where race is also a problem, and a black poor person is worse off, generally speaking, than a white poor person. But you closing your ears?
I'm putting you further into my ears, man.
Oh, I thought you were like, God, don't want to hear this.
I'm full up on politics.
But what you're really doing is pushing the earphones in closer.
I'm getting you into my brain, bro.
Anyways, all that to say that the idea of a mass movement, a mass riot, I think that is, maybe what people were scared of. But good news, the lower classes in this country are not nearly united enough to do that. No. So that is that. But again, back to the Joker, it felt like it does betray the idea of a Joker because he's so ill-equipped to plan anything. And also, does it take a bit of the sting out of it that they take so many pains to show you both in backstory and what you're seeing that this guy is so mentally ill, he doesn't really know what he's doing. He does not really understand what it means to be human, like you were saying, Rachel. He has to look at other people to see what they're doing to do it. And he doesn't get sent to prison, he gets sent to a mental institute. But JD, the real quote-unquote Joker, has agency, is culpable, knows what he's doing, knows what his role vis-a-vis Batman is.
Yeah.
That he's the yin and the yang, and this Joker is not that. I'm sorry, and it to me has less punch because of that.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
He's not scary. You just feel bad for him.
Yeah. And ultimately, that's where my verdict comes down on this movie. And what I meant when I said at the beginning, this movie should never have been made, because I don't need to know the Joker's backstory. I just don't. I mean, that's why the Heath Ledger's Joker was so great, because you never knew why he was doing what he was doing. Like, that's why Anton Chigurh is great. That's why Hannibal Lecter is great. Like, they're just electrifying villains that you cannot get enough of watching them on screen. And why they're doing it is a mystery, and that's part of what makes them scary.
Yeah, Ledger's terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, not just that you don't know, but he's actively lying to you. He's hiding the ball. He's telling you, this is my origin story,
Right.
only to double back and change it. I forget how many times during the movie.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, the scars. How you want to know how I got my scars? Like, that was the smartest thing that Nolan did in that movie. It's just because it changes every time, and you don't know where he's from and why he's doing what he's doing. He's an agent of chaos, and that's why he's terrifying.
And he just wants to piss Batman off most of the time. Like, it's not because I want love. It's like, you are just fun to fuck around with and annoy.
Yeah, you're so pure and good. I'd love to see if I can make you compromise yourself.
Yeah.
But again, that takes planning, and he has a lot of henchmen. I don't think Arthur could have a team. He couldn't even be, he couldn't work at the Clown Incorporated.
That's right.
He can't be part of a team. He has no management skills.
If you were set with the goal of redoing Taxi Driver,
Yeah.
and you had to pick a comic book villain to put in there as an
interesting.
origin story,
Yeah.
who would you choose instead of the Joker?
Ooh. Thanos. I'd love to see him.
But he'd be driving a Hummer, I feel like.
He'd have to. He's so
It's
big.
an Uber Black, but it's fine.
He's a big
He'll
guy.
pick you up from the airport.
That's right.
He'll pick half of the people up from the airport.
You did watch all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did. I know. I'm a loser. All right, two more things happen in this movie. During the riot, the Wayne family's coming out of a movie. I guess when the riot started, they weren't like, all right, shut down the movie. There's a riot going on.
Yeah.
Everyone exit from the back. They were just like, we'll let them exit right into the heart of the riot.
Hey, Bruce, what'd you think of Zorro the Gay Blade? Oh, Dad, I loved it. Oh, my God, there's a riot out here. Come down the dark alley.
Oh, watch those needles. Jesus.
As we've seen many times before, a rioter, not Arthur, but another man dressed as the Joker, shoots them, and the pearls go a-sailing, as they tend to do, right, JD? Did you like that? Did you need this?
Yeah, I needed to see Bruce Wayne's family get killed again. Every fucking, like...
It was Bruce Wayne's grandma and grandpa this time. That's original.
That's what it was.
Hashtag justice for Joker. And then, of course, the final coda is Arthur is in Arkham Asylum, and he's laughing to himself about a joke, and the therapist says, "What's so funny?" He says, "You wouldn't get it." And then after he leaves, there's a trail of bloody shoe prints behind him.
Is that
insinuating
a
that
dream?
he killed her,
Yeah.
and the orderlies chase him down. And that is the end of 2019's Jokin. But we're starting Joaquin Phoenix. I guess before final thoughts, JD, I asked you to come prepared.
Yeah.
Because there have been many famous performances of the Joker.
Sure, yeah.
And I want to know where Joaquin Phoenix's performance fit in. So can you please rank the Jokers for me?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I haven't seen all of the Jokers. There's a Joker apparently in the series Gotham, which I have never watched. So.
No. Oh, okay. Well, why don't you tell us which ones you're ranking? 'Cause
Okay,
I don't think we need that guy.
I've got Romero, Leto, Hamill, Nicholson, Heath, and Phoenix.
And I think the one people might not know is Mark Hamill. Can you explain?
He
Joker?
voices the Joker in the animated series, the Batman the animated series, and he's very, very good. I watched that probably 20 episodes of that, and I didn't realize it was Mark Hamill.
And he's been doing it for a while,
He's
right?
Yeah, he's like a lot of people consider him the best Joker ever. But it's a voice acting But I included him in my list. Okay.
So you're ranking 6 Jokers.
Yeah, the 6 Jokers. Yeah. Okay. Number 1 is Heath by a lot. Like.
Okay.
Like-
Wait, you're Lee Ellising it? You're going highest to lowest?
Yeah. Why not?
Okay.
I'm doing it this way, and you'll find out. You'll see why.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Then I go
Sorry.
Nicholson, who I also loved.
Yeah.
Then I'm going Hamill. Then I'm going Leto because I did actually find it. I thought he was at least a little bit interesting. He doesn't get a lot of screen time, but
How is he? He's so annoying. He's like a teenage Joker with braces. Like
Okay.
he's like so cringy.
okay. Well, I don't disagree with you, but I've got Cesar Romero after Leto, who is just campy. You know, I mean,
Campy's
whatever.
good.
1966.
Do you like a campy Joker? Because
well,
Nicholson was campy.
Yeah,
Yes, I do.
Nicholson's my number one
I
because
do.
he's campy, but he's also scary and disturbing, but kind of campy and
Okay,
funny.
I mean, yes, that absolutely. I mean, look, this is up for debate, obviously, and I'm putting Joaquin Phoenix as number 6, the worst.
Wow!
Joker. That's right. That's
Whoa!
right.
Tell me why.
I've made my points already, Matt. The Joker, he's funny, he's charismatic, he's smart. This guy may not even be the Joker, according to the director of this film, who I think is just copping out. He's just like, I don't really have a clear vision of what this is going to be, other than he's supposed to turn out to be the Joker, or is he, right? Like, it's like, again, any criticism that's leveled against this film, you can say, well, he's an unreliable narrator, or,
all
well,
subjective.
it was all a dream. He never left Arkham Asylum. That scene with him banging his head against the wall is what has been happening this entire time. This guy might not even be the Joker. He just inspired the Joker. It's like, okay, fuck off. Phoenix, you're on the bottom. I mean, nothing against Phoenix, the actor. I think it was a great performance for what it was, what he was asked to do. But it was not entertaining in the least to watch this movie and him as the Joker, and that's the bottom line.
Okay, so then let's get to the question: is this bad? And I'll piggyback off what you're saying, and that is the main problem. Is there's no spark in this movie. It is flat. It looks great, but like I said off the top, it has a sin of being boring.
Do you have no human compassion? Is that it? You're a psychopath. You don't feel his pain. That's flat to you.
Yes, it is flat. I do kind of feel his pain. I said I like the showing the social services part of it and how he's failed by the system, or at least partly. But no, it was a chore. And when you told me that you wanted to do this movie, I said yes. And then since you told me that, I have been putting off watching this movie. And then yesterday, Jill said to me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "What's going on?" And I said, I gotta watch The Joker again.
You watched it like right up until 5 minutes
God.
to 4. You've just finished it.
I mean, I'll be honest. I regretted pitching this idea to you the moment I saw the retro Warner Brothers logo off the top of the movie. I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm watching this again. But I don't know. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe it's good. Maybe it's good.
I honestly was hoping.
Yeah.
I was hoping that I was going to do The Batman,
Yeah.
but I did The Not.
So, Rachel, you had a 12. You watched it for
Rachel.
the first time last night, and then you watched it again this morning.
I had a lot of sympathy for his plight, regardless of who he is supposed to be. I mean, I didn't read a lot of comic books growing up, so I wasn't married to the character. I just felt the compassion for the fucked up life he had led and the delusion. It is irritating to me if it was all a dream in the end, because any fucking story that ends that way makes me go, I'd like those 2 hours fucking back if this was a dream.
Yeah.
But he was really interesting to watch. His laugh was super annoying. On that, my favorite Joker laugh, I think, is Ledger or Nicholson. But his bottom of the list for favorite Joker
For laugh. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would be a good ranking. Best Joker laugh.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think Heath number 1. But
And
yeah.
JD, is this bad? You've already answered.
Yes, it's bad.
Oh.
It is bad. It is unequivocally 100%
What if you're
bad.
looking for a class struggle to watch?
I mean, you'll watch Taxi Driver. I recommend that anyone who enjoyed The Joker should go back and watch Taxi
I mean, that's the easiest like algorithm recommendation generator. Like, if you like this, you'll love this.
Yeah.
It's like, it's pretty much on the nose. Now, will you consent to me giving you a Joker 2 spoiler?
I mean, I'm into it. Rachel, you can take your...
Rachel, just accept it. Or you can leave the room. You can go into our soundproof chamber like the first person to do Fast Money on Family Feud.
You have to agree that we're not reviewing it.
Yeah, no problem. I don't want to watch it.
Fine. Do what you got to do.
I'm not sure I want to do this again, period.
I was like, Rachel, I'm going to do insurance fraud and burn my car. And you're like, okay, but if you do that, then you're not going to be able to drive it anymore. I'm like, yeah, that's the point.
Okay, so this is for everybody as well out there who's listening.
This is the end of the show. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you.
I mean, if you want to come back, I'm going to ask you to recommend a movie you would like us to do next.
Yeah.
I think, JD, do you think it has to be a movie that most people think is good, right? Like,
I think that's would be best. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So a movie that maybe you watched, you didn't like, you watch it again, you did, or you just want to see what we think about it. Recommend a movie to us, isthisgoodpod@gmail.com, or hit us up on the Discord, patreon.com/isthisgood. Do that. If you don't want to hear a Joker 2 spoiler, I cannot express to you enough. This is a very big Joker 2 spoiler, so shut it off now. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. The way that Joker 2 ends is Arthur gets put back into Arkham Asylum, so he obviously breaks out at some point.
Okay.
Then apparently the second half of the movie is like a courtroom drama.
Yeah,
okay.
I've heard that.
Oh.
Anyways, it ends. He gets put back into Arkham Asylum.
Okay.
A man comes into his room
Okay.
and stabs him to death. Stabs
That's
Arthur
what I was
to
gonna
death.
say. I'm not surprised.
And then
at
he
all.
takes the knife, and then he cuts the Heath Ledger scars into his thing,
There you go.
leading you to believe that not only was Arthur not the Joker,
Yeah.
maybe that's why they didn't put the, actually, now that I think about it. He merely inspired the...
So exactly what he was
what-
leading. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Why are we watching
Yeah.
two of these movies then?
It's so stupid. It's just.
I
so
feel like
fucking
it's a little
stupid.
more justified now, though.
You like it more
You know
based on
what?
it?
Because he's not trying to replicate the Joker. He's inspiring the real Joker.
But then he's really, not only is he backdooring a 1970s gritty crime drama into it, he's tricking us to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's even almost more annoying than It Was All a Dream.
I give him points for creativity. No, it's not more annoying than It Was Just a Dream. Please, nothing's more annoying than ending a fucking film that way.
All right, Bobby Ewing came back to life. It's fine.
All right, well, once I read that, I was like, whew. I mean, and people don't like the new Joker movie.
No, it's not.
I think
it is
even
not.
the heads don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, I should have quickly looked up what it had, but
I think it was definitely rotten last time I looked.
34% and audience score 36% for a
that's not
for
good.
a comic book movie. That's fucking low.
Oh, yeah, you don't need to figure out whether is this bad.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No. So that's why I also don't feel bad ruining it, because I know you're not going to see it. I mean, maybe the kids will want to see it.
Maybe. I don't know. I'll probably watch it when it comes on Max next month.
Yeah, exactly. I know, JD. So again, if you come back or you listen to the spoiler, first of all, you're welcome for saving you from having to watch that movie. Do you have an idea of a next movie, JD?
You wanted Feces.
No, because if it's
Also known as Species.
what was the percentage on Rotten
I think
Tomatoes?
does not have a good
It's not
Rotten
good.
Tomatoes score.
Should
we say it has to be above 60%?
Yeah, why don't we?
It has to be certified fresh. Is that
Okay.
60% or 70%?
Yeah. I was gonna say The Departed, which I hate.
Okay.
I hated that movie. And
Species
hey,
is
it's
42%, by the way.
42.
Yeah.
Oh,
what's Departed?
We can do The Departed.
That's Scorsese.
That's
isn't it?
91% and
Okay.
94% audience score. So that is much beloved. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, but feel free to suggest movies to us.
Yeah, it doesn't
Again, tell us.
we won't necessarily do that one, but
Yeah.
if you
And
want
we'll
us to do
you
that
know
one,
in
let us
advance.
know. But
we'll let you know well in advance. I guess that means we're doing this again, JD.
Yeah, let's do it again. Well, I love mixing it up, talking movies.
All right, we love talking movies. Tell us what you thought of The Joker. Check us out, patreon.com/isthisgood. If you have topics, email us at isthisgoodpod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks in advance for leaving a 5-star review. I would say that's 3 stars more than I would give The Joker. For Rachel and JD, I'm Matt. Thanking you for joining the Is This Bad Movie Club.
Yes.
We'll see you soon.